doesn't matter where you are from, you have heard the hit single Trampoline by the band SHAED, and you have loved it. You have whistled along, smiling as you've listened to the soaring vocals of lead singer Chelsea Lee. Lee has been with the band SHAED for almost 4 years, but with these same bandmates even longer in their previous group, The Walking Sticks. But it wasn't until Trampoline was released that they stepped onto the world stage. Trampoline has racked up over 95 million Spotify streams, reached #1 on the US Billboard Alternative Songs chart, and #13 on the Billboard Hot 100 in 2019, certifying double platinum in the US. Still humble, generous, and lovely, despite this incredible success, Chelsea Lee is here to share with us a little bit about her journey. Thank you for joining us, Chelsea.
That song is I keep telling you this, it is playing all the time here in Utah.
Oh my gosh.
I can't drive in my car without hearing it. Like, it's just all over the place. So again, thank you for
Oh, of course.
So, all right, G, do you want to take over and ask the
Let's
first question?
start. Thank you. Again, we're super excited to have you. And like Mindy just said, we are working virtually with all of our interviews and the entire conference as well. But what we're seeing, one of the outreaches that we're doing are for artists, because artists are not able to perform, their gigs, everything has been canceled. And that is having a really significant impact on their income and on their creativity, because art is so collaborative. So I wonder if you have any advice, because artists aren't able to collaborate right now, in your history with your band, when you guys haven't been able to be in the same room at the same time, how have you managed to create group work when you're apart?
Well, the great thing about this day and age is that there's technology that we can all, pretty freely use. And right at the start of this kind of quarantine phase, Max wasn't with Spencer and I. And so Spencer and I are writing, and we're emailing back and forth and calling and doing FaceTime. So I think it's about kind of getting creative. Obviously we have to find a new normal, which is just so insane. Like you said, we have no shows, no nothing. So even creating right now is so tough, because it's just, there's so much anxiety and uncertainty just wrapped around all of this, that it's been a challenge to even be creative. You'd think it would be the opposite, because we have such, free time. But the internet has been a really great tool, especially, Zoom, and just emailing ideas back and forth has been a big thing for us. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, you touched on it right there, which is sort of the question, which is, it seems like you have infinite time and you can just sit and produce, but that energy is really off when you're working like this. So what have you done to kind of tap into that and create that creative environment for you and your team?
I think kind of taking the pressure off for a second, kind of telling yourself, this is a time for you to also rest. You don't feel like you always need to be working. I think that's kind of been my challenge. I'm like, oh, we're not traveling, we're not doing anything, so I have to be writing or doing something creative 24 hours. And I think just kind of letting yourself, like giving yourself a bit of a break, which I think has been a really good thing for us, because this past year we probably had collectively a week off. And so this is like, we're finally able to just chill and kind of do some, self-care stuff. So I think that kind of picking and choosing certain times to be creative, and then also to kind of give yourself a break, has been a really big helpful thing for me.
Oh, I love that. I think that's really good advice.
Obviously, in our intro that I did that you didn't see, is I mentioned that the 2 other people in your band are twin brothers, one who you are married to.
Yes.
And Spencer reached out after Chelsea and I had started working and going through, and all of a sudden decided he wanted to sing. And so he's been taking sessions back and forth and texting and like doing all this stuff. So I want to talk to you, is how has this friendly competition been going with Spencer kind of play
He's kind of dethrone you.
and now being like, oh, well, I know some singing stuff. Is he critiquing?
Oh yeah.
You're in the vocal booth now. Like, how has that been going?
um, it's been so funny because he'll do his warm-ups and I'm like, oh crap, I haven't done my warm-ups. So we're just like, I'm like, oh, I gotta do this. And I was telling Mindy that he's killing it with the vocal straws. And I'm like, Mindy, I'm so frustrated. I can't get the same vocal straw situation as he can. But I think that we're always trying to learn. And I think that when Spencer saw how much fun and success I was having with Mindy, he was like, I need to try this. I need to do this. So I think he was like very stoked on that. And he is so excited about it all. It's hilarious.
And it's
Aw.
funny because their learning patterns and how they are totally opposite. Like how I work with Chelsea and like talk with Chelsea through things, and then how Spencer is. I'm like, oh, you're the logic guy. You need to like understand the whys and the science and like everything behind. And Chelsea's like, I feel that. I feel this. I feel that. He's like the organic one. And so it's so funny to see the differences between the two of them. And they're both like individually, like, I won't divulge the secrets because it's room of trust, but she'll be like, Spencer. And then she'll be like, oh, I got to beat Chelsea on this.
Yeah, right.
They have this like
It's so
friendly
much fun.
little marriage banter going back and forth. It's so funny to see.
Because one of the things I read was that you really delved into the music scene in DC, and you really found it to be like a very tight-knit community, really supportive among the artists. And for me, that was kind of surprising because being out in LA, like we just hear about all these people who are coming out here to be part of a community. And right now, like where people aren't able to do that, I just thought it's probably more common that there is that really tight-knit community locally that maybe these aspiring artists are not sure how to tap into. Do you have any suggestions or tips for how to like plug into your local artist community to grow as an artist?
I would say that DC especially has just been really kind to us. And when we were starting, you know, we were playing really small venues and we kind of built our way throughout all the venues in DC, and just so people love to support local music here and the arts. And so people are coming to shows and they're actually listening and singing, and small businesses are getting kind of involved. They'll have shows at their stores or their restaurants. So I think the amount of support that we've had here, and just kids that are hungry to work in this business. We've met so many people that have helped us throughout the years. Tour managers, you know, merch people, sound guys. We have such a great knit team that they're just like, hey, we love you guys. We love this area. And we just want to do whatever we can to help you. And I think that people kind of underestimate DC because it's, you know, politics, but it really is a great music scene. I mean, 930 Club is one of the most amazing venues in the country, in our opinion. But I just would say I feel like each city or each town has a need to support something. And I feel like most of the places that we've traveled, everyone loves music. You know, people kind of look to music as an outlet. And so I think just kind of trying to figure out how to get into that scene, play local shows, you know, reach out to everyone you can, talk to everyone you can, walk around, pass out flyers, pass out whatever, you know, really, we have really been grinding it out in the city, and that's why we can never really leave, which is, you know, yeah.
That's great. You get to stay part of the community that helped you find your way forward. So that's beautiful.
Yeah. For sure.
And one of the things that, you know, I always have noticed about your one song that I listen to the most, and then now I'm preparing for this interview, so many other of your songs, is that you really use this beautiful, clean, high part of your voice that I think is, as a voice doctor, you know, I always know that is the most difficult thing to access consistently. What are some of the things that you've been able to do to help you to maintain your voice and use that beautiful sound when you need it?
Oh, that's so nice. I have struggled, and I've talked to Mindy about this. long story short, I have been singing kind of without a vocal teacher, like a proper vocal teacher, for many, many years. And it led to a lot of anxiety wrapped around shows and things like that. We were going on tour, and before shows, I would just be like freaking out. I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can perform as well as I did the other night. So I think having a voice teacher has absolutely 100 million% helped me tap into any kind of everything. And I feel like I generally have kind of a low register voice anyway. So when we write, I try to kind of, I try to do a little bit of everything. So I'm not just kind of stuck. So I'm trying to do powerhouse vocals and then something a little more chill. And, but 100%, the only reason I've been able to do this has been with the help of Mindy. And just, I mean, truly.
Very nice.
because previously, before shows, I would be like frantically looking for YouTube video warm-ups, and I spent like 45 minutes doing like these ridiculous warm-ups, and then I'd be like, why isn't this working? This should be, you know, I kind of thought there was like a one size fits all, and I haven't really found a voice teacher combo that has worked for me yet until Mindy. And so I think that's been a really helpful thing for me.
I think that's such a great thing to share with our audience who feels like either it should just be easy and natural and you should never need help, or that when you get to your level that it just somehow is delivered to you and you don't need to, like, you're not going to need to find it for yourself, but you really were doing what all singers do. They're YouTubing and trying to find the solutions themselves until they finally realize that it is like this fit relationship. Between when you first started working and when you started feeling better, like how much time would you say, or how many lessons till you really felt like, okay, like I'm making the progress that I had been trying to on YouTube?
Well, I had a couple lessons with Mindy, and then I saw her in person in Utah, and she did like a whole massage, and I went in there, I had no voice, I had allergies and just feeling like crap. And she's like, oh, that's fine. And I'm like, I have a show tonight and I don't even know if I'm going to be able to sing. She's like, you will always be able to sing. Whether you're sick, whether anything, you will always be able to sing. And I was like, I have never thought, you know, when I'm sick, I'm like, oh crap, I'm not going to be able to sing. I'm not going to be able to perform. And so I've always kind of gone, if something is not right, I won't be able to sing, like just screw this whole thing. So I think that after that massage, seconds, I mean, you don't realize, I think for me especially, I was always kind of putting off getting a voice teacher because I was like, I don't have time. I'm not gonna be able to like do a regimen, and I'm not gonna be able to find someone, and I haven't had luck in the past. And I didn't necessarily think that I didn't need one. I was like, you know, certainly do need one, especially we're having, you know, 5 shows back to back in a week and doing radio performances and interviews. So it truly was like, and that's why I was like, oh, this is what I've been missing all these years.
It was funny because our first 2 lessons were actually while she was in the van driving from city to city. Like her bandmates were in there, the tour managers in the back texting going, hey Mindy, you know, and we're like trying to figure out this system so that she could get, because I knew I would see her, like she had 2 shows and then she was coming to Utah. So I'm like, okay, let me just get you through these 2 shows and then we'll see you in person. And so when we came in person, she was texting me and she was like, I'm coming in hot. Like, I really feel like crap. And I was like, you're fine. Like, I got a team here. If we need something, we can make it work. Just come in. Like, and I was like, this is when you need me. Like, you're coming into a spot where this is when you're going to see the value of what we can do. And so literally she came in and it was like, hi, like, super raspy, of course. And I was like, okay. And so we did this thing and we walked out, and I went to the show that night and she just killed it. And it was like from there, like seeing it, I thought her husband was going to cry when he saw me afterwards and like crying and was like, thank you so much. And just from
because
there,
it's probably this like huge stress. Like, I mean, like every
Yeah.
single
Oh
show
my
you're going
gosh.
out, you're like, can I count on this or not? And I mean, that
Yeah.
realization that you're like, it's not me, it's not my fault, it's not my chords, it's just a system that needs to be tuned and maintained. And this is back in my, like, I can manage this. That was probably like a
Oh yeah.
real moment.
do you
Oh
feel,
yeah.
sorry,
Sorry, go ahead.
no, I said, go for it. You go. And then I have a question.
Oh, I was gonna say that when we first started touring, we were doing like 25-minute sets, super easy set, in and out. We weren't doing any radio performances or anything like that. So I was like, I can do this. My voice is holding up. And then with each tour, it's like a little more time and a little more interviews and all this stuff. And then with this last tour, halfway through, I mean, I was just, and that when I first met Mindy, that was probably like halfway. I was so exhausted, and I had tried it with somebody else and it wasn't working, and I was just getting so frustrated. And you can never underestimate the impact of stress on anything, but especially on, you know, uh, being able to go out there and perform. It's like you're not acting like yourself, you're not singing like yourself, you're questioning everything. And I've had a show in a past tour where I completely lost my voice. I sang 3 songs and I was like, I have to get off the stage. I can't even. And so I've had like this trauma where I'm like, I never want to have that again. So that was like building up, and I was like, oh, I can't go through that again. It was like horrible. It took me so long to recover from that. And so I just, having peace of mind every show, doing the warm-ups and being like, oh, you know what, I can do this and I don't have to sing. I mean, I truly would do these YouTube warm-ups and then I'd be like, oh, I'm gonna just sing with my headphones in to some Spotify songs from like my favorite people, and I'm just like warm up that way. And then by the time I finish that, like my voice is, I'm like done. So I think that just finding out what works for me and what helps me just like realize that I can do this and I don't have to try so hard to do something that's not working, you know, have like a really good regimen has been a big thing for me.
Well, I think that's like a key component too, in from a coaching standpoint and also from an artist standpoint, is you have to have a customizable workout for the individual person. There's not something that is a standard, like
Right.
one fix all for everyone. With getting more comfortable in your voice, and I know that this has been something that I've talked about with other artists too, do you feel like you found joy again with it? Like, did you
Yes.
find like you feel like you're back in the I'm loving what I'm doing because you're not worried or stressed about it? Like did you ever feel like you
100%.
were in that spot and you were like, I hate singing, and now you're into a spot where like, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life? Like there's no
100%. And it wasn't just shows either. It was like recording vocals. We would be recording vocals and I would be recording the same chorus 100 times because I just wasn't getting it, and I was just getting more and more frustrated and I hadn't warmed up. And so now we're recording so much faster, and yeah, going on stage and actually being relaxed and being able to connect with, you know, Max and Spencer on stage and the audience is so huge, and not having that burden like, oh, I'm going to tiptoe around this whole performance and make sure that I don't mess up and make sure that I don't, you know, blow out my voice. So I'm going to really like take everything lightly. So I think that has been such a relief for me, because I'm like, oh, okay, now I can, you know, I can do this hour set and I can do it every single night and not feel like I'm screwed, you know?
Yeah.
I think that is like, I mean, that is such an incredible vulnerability that you're sharing, because again, I think people see you on stage and just think you're superhuman and that you don't have these moments of self-doubt and these worries about an ability to perform, because we just see you deliver again and again. And it's, you know, I really appreciate you opening that for our artists to see. I think it's so
Oh, of
important to not feel
course.
alone in that way.
Oh yeah, and that's the biggest thing for me is I've always been told, no matter what, the audience doesn't ever really know if something's wrong, if you've made a mistake. And I'm just thinking, if I know something is wrong and I'm acting a certain way and I'm not doing my normal thing, then the guys are thrown off and then we're all thrown off. And then at the end of the show, we're looking at each other and we're just like, gosh, that sucked. And what's the point of, there's only so many shows that you can say that after if you're doing that over and over again, because you just are feeling so self-conscious about everything you're doing. You're right, Mindy. It totally loses its fun for sure.
Long, I watched some of your earlier stuff with the walking sticks, and it's such a different sound, and it's really interesting to think that the same voice can gear shift like that. Like it almost feels like two different people, and I wonder how you managed to make that transition.
I think that we were always trying to figure out our endpoint, and I think that it was always kind of us just continually trying out different things. Like I was a solo artist for a bit, and part of the crashing of being a solo artist was I was really, very shy, very in my shell, and I hated being the center of anything. So I kind of I had met the guys, I was doing solo, they were in a band, and then I kind of left the deal with the major label and I morphed into their band. And I was originally just backup. I was just on the side of the stage, and they were eventually like, you need to be in the center of the stage. And they were still kind of doing folk Americana stuff. And then we kind of quickly transitioned once I got into the middle of the stage to this more like 80s leaning alternative-y thing that this has come. But I think that just so many years of us just trying to figure out and finally finding that place, and like we have an amazing team, and we have just amazing relationships, and now I have a reliable, amazing vocal coach that can help me through that, through the terrors of that. So that's been really helpful for me.
One question I wanted to ask you, and this is something that I get asked a lot, with people who are up and coming, is who would you feel is an essential team member? Like if you could go back when you were starting to build everything and things that you've learned from industry and stuff like that, like people who are really kind of at that cusp or like in there, they're doing a lot of shows in their home state, they're getting it, but they just need that next jump.
Right.
Who are the team members that you think you need to have surrounding you, and like who's like pivotal in that?
So I would say our first team member that we got was our lawyer. So before management or anything like that, we actually hadn't had management for many years. We were kind of flopping around, but our first team member was our lawyer, who's one of our dearest friends and truly has, kind of acts as a managerial role, gives a lot of advice on, with us contracts coming in for shows or for TV syncs or, for publishing or anything like that. And especially because we're writing so much, you need someone to be like, all right, with all this writing, you want to get this amount of producer points or whatever. So lawyer, I would say 100%. And then manager, I would say 100%, because the three of us are so, we find communication so important. And so having that person that you can bug every second of every day, if you have a question, if you have anything, and feel comfortable and feel like this person absolutely has your back. We are on a label, but we chose a label that is 6 people, very, very small. So kind of choosing people that you feel incredibly comfortable with, people that you would invite into your own home, have them sleep in your guest bedroom and stay with you for a week, and, you know, feel like part of your family, because all of our team members truly have just been, we're like one big, huge family. So I would say for us, our lawyer and our management is the biggest for us.
What's the future for you guys? Like, what can we see, like, moving forward? And once this crisis is over, like, obviously I know you're going to start hitting the pavement hard, but like, where do you see yourself besides moving into the house?
Oh yeah. Well, since it looks like we probably won't have any kind of real in-person show until like 2021, we are really hard working on our album right now, and we're almost done. And it's been a long time coming, and that's really the silver lining of this whole thing, is now we actually have a second to write and breathe, because when we're traveling, it's so hard to be like, oh, let's write today and then let's travel for 3 weeks and then we'll pick up that song. It's a whole thing. So just finishing up the album, trying to get a whole new creative direction, do a whole new big bang for this next album. And then I would say trying to figure out the virtual, show thing. We've done a couple and they've been really interesting, but I guess trying to get better at TikTok. I'm trying to do that, which is so lame, but
dance moves. Like, do some of your dance moves on stage.
Oh my gosh. Oh dear.
We're going to help you build your following right now. Your TikTok is going to blow up.
Absolutely. Well, I adore you. I just think you're super amazing and one of the kindest and nicest and very humble
that's so
people.
nice.
And I wish everybody could see that side of you, like when you're off stage, and like really see who you are as a person. And I commend you, because you just are so grounded and
thank you.
easy to work with. I love. And
thank you.
Anyway, I just adore you, and I appreciate you taking the time. Give
Thank
Spencer a big
you.
Oh my gosh, of course, it was so nice to meet you too.
You too.
And from there, I will see you online next.
Yes. Yes.
And again,
yes,
much love. So thank you very much.
Awesome. Bye, guys.
Bye.
See
Thank
ya.
you.
Bye.